Hi, Graeme from Playfair Finance, commercial finance broker here. I often get asked, what is the difference between an invoice finance facility and an overdraft? Well, the overdraft is the most commonly used form of short-term finance, with 16% of SMEs in the UK having an overdraft. And an overdraft, effectively, there's an arrangement fee to put it in place. You pay interest when you're using the overdraft, but obviously not when you're not using the overdraft. And it's a short-term facility, so it's generally 12 months, due to be reviewed at the end of the year. So if you're constantly at the limit of your overdraft facility, then there is always the danger that it can be construed as a long-term debt rather than a short-term facility. And the bank could ask you to repay that, potentially by putting it into a term loan, at which point the benefit of an overdraft in terms of no capital repayment requirement and no monthly cost is superseded, really, because the loan obviously has a monthly repayment. The alternative to that, as is often put forward, although it is a very different type of facility, is the Invoice Finance Facility. Now, the Invoice Finance Facility provides you money upfront on your invoices before you get paid by your customer. There is a fee to be paid on a monthly basis, which is the fee to manage the facility, and you pay interest as and when you are required to borrow money. So if you're not borrowing money against the invoice, then you're not paying interest. So I guess the best way to look at it really is to look at two companies. So let's say we've got two companies that are looking to grow. Company one has an overdraft and company two has an invoice finance facility. Now, company one, when it grows, will grow using its overdraft facility, which is a set amount of money, and it'll get to the overdraft limit and find that it starts to run out of cash as it tries to grow through that glass ceiling. So it'll need to go back to the bank and negotiate the overdraft facility, or potentially take out a loan in order to get to the next level of growth. And then it'll use up that finite amount of money again if it's continuing to grow, and it'll have to do the same again and go back and try and renegotiate a new deal. Whereas if you've got the invoice finance facility with company two, and then company two basically starts to grow, and as it grows, it raises more invoices. The invoices are then, there's money provided against those up front by the invoice finance facility, which allows you to continue to grow because it grows with you. It's not the case of having to renegotiate it every single time. So it's a much more powerful way of actually growing your business without having to constantly be thinking, oh my goodness, I've reached the limit, what do I do now? Maybe I just stay where I am. I'm going to have to do something to grow again. You don't have to think about it. You just have to keep selling and keep growing, keep making profit, and then your facility will grow with you. So it's a very powerful way of using your cash in order to grow. I've talked a lot about these facilities being very good for survival, which they are, but also they're very, very good for growth. And I think they're very misunderstood in the market. And the reason I say that is that only less than 1% of all UK businesses have such a facility in place. And I think a lot of that is to do with the fact that there is this perception that it's, well, why don't I just use an overdraft instead of an invoice finance facility? Well, hopefully I've dispelled that by the company one, company two description. But it's certainly a not widely used facility. The stigma that used to be attached to it, in terms of people thinking the company who had one was in difficulty, is really no longer there. There are lots of finance facilities, just under 50,000 finance facilities in the UK. So it's being used, and being used effectively by many, many UK businesses to help with cash flow. So hopefully that has given you some kind of food for thought, really, in terms of the question, is an invoice finance facility the same as an overdraft, or vice versa? And hopefully you can see that they are not the same.